Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sinan Qasim, and I'm proud as always to serve as our president of the Youth Innovation Table. We have some of our amazing board members on the call, our vice president, my right hand, Miriam, Isabel, our communications director, and Grace, our director of the Youth Innovation Table in California. And we're expecting more to join the call. We'll also be broadcasting this to the rest of our group as well for those who miss it or have questions. We're so excited to have an amazing keynote speaker with us today, who's an excellent community leader and mayor in the city of Tamarack, Florida. Before we get to our keynote speaker's presentation, we have a few items of club business we're going to go over. Miriam, if you can go to the next slide. So he's not here just yet, but we want to recognize the founder of the Youth Innovation Table, Mayor Scott Brook of Coral Springs, Florida, who's an amazing mentor and another mayor who just does a great job supporting all of us. We just want to give him a shout out for all of his efforts and everything that he does. So I'm going to hand it over to Miriam, who's going to talk about our team and ways to get involved, and then we'll start our presentation. Miriam?
Thank you, Sinan. So as you guys can see, this is our leadership team. Of course, we have our wonderful president, Sinan, and I am Miriam, the vice president. And we have our two communications directors, Bailey and Isabel, our director of the YIT in California, Grace, and our secretary, Julianne. Okay, so here are three just different specific areas of greater involvement if any of our members are interested. So if you want, you could focus more on the marketing and outreach, the member retention and recruitment, and the fundraising, and we hope to build these three subsections into committees. So if you're interested, please do reach out to any of us or to our email. And Sinan, if you want to go ahead and talk about sponsorships.
Sure. So we have some sponsorship opportunities. If you know anyone who owns a business or who would be interested, we have 4 packages starting at $100 all the way up to $1,000. And there are some great benefits from the Youth Innovation Table that have come along with that. So let us know if you're interested. So we're going to have a Q&A session today with our speaker, after a little bit of a presentation and introduction. And some important things to note: at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the chat icon. You can ask any questions that you have through there. We have lots of questions that came through the registration. And you also have the raise hand icon, which will allow you to let us know that you have a question, and we will get to you and as many questions as we can for as much time as the mayor is available for today's call. And so, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mayor Michelle Gomez. She is the mayor in the city of Tamarack since 2018. She's served as vice mayor and commissioner. She's also the co-chair of the MPO Roundtable Steering Committee, member of the Broward Health Community Health Needs Assessment Advisory Council, the Broward Health Coral Springs Community Relations Council, and so many other different committees and organizations that she supports in the community. She is an attorney, and we are so excited to have her to share her insights and experiences with us. So without further ado, I'm going to open the floor to Mayor Gomez. And Mayor Gomez, feel free to share a few words of your experiences and introduction to yourself and anything that you have as advice to our youth. And thank you so much for joining the Youth Innovation Table.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. And it's good to see everybody here. I kind of wish we were all together, but I also hear that we've got people all across the country, so it makes it a little difficult at this time. But I appreciate the President, Kasim, for putting this together and asking me to be a part of it. And I know Mayor Brook will be on when he gets a chance. Very good man. Had the pleasure of working with him on the mayor side and the municipal side, and also as an attorney as well. So let's see a little bit about me. I am a New Yorker. I grew up in New York, Queens, New York, and I've been coming down to Florida since the 70s, early 70s. You guys, we won't go there. And I was visiting my grandparents, and then I've always been involved in school. When I was in school, I was involved in the student union, whatever you call it for your various grades. In New York, it was elementary school, junior high, and high school. So I've always been involved through that. got involved. I was an athlete, and I like to stay busy. Busier the better. And then I went to college at American University in Washington, D.C. And then I got my master's at American University as well. And I thought, you know what? At the time, I wanted to go to law school. If I did want to go to law school, so I put law school on hold and decided to work. And I figured I'd have an opportunity. I'd come down here for a year, be with my grandparents, and play a little ball, get a little sun, and be social. The next thing I know, July 4th was 27 years down here. And in the job I had, I didn't like the attorney I was dealing with. So I decided I needed to take some steps into my own hands and went to Nova's night program, then went to convert it into day, night, weekend, summers, get out. And I was just sharing with a friend of mine, yesterday was my 21st anniversary of being an attorney here in the state of Florida. And I also am licensed to practice in DC and in New York. Thought I was going to do the agent thing and represent athletes. And I figured they needed to know how to handle buying and selling a home, dealing with probate and estate planning to protect their assets. And the next thing I know, I'm at my firm, which I've also been there. It'll be in October, it'll be 21 years. And it's a small firm with a really long name. I'm the only one left out of all of them. And I'm here in Tamarack. And so I love that part of it. But I had this thing, if I wasn't going back to New York and I have something that I have an issue with, I have to be involved. And so basically I complained about something and I was given a piece of paper saying, here, we have something called Tamarack University. Why don't you go to it, learn about the city? And the next thing you know, a year later, they needed people to determine whether or not they wanted to be on the commission. And I said yes, and I've been in it since. So that's the really quick on me. I honestly like the question and answer session much better. I heard you say that there were questions for me. So if you don't mind, unless there's anything specific you want me to speak about, I had some questions for you, but I'd rather hear what you have for me. Is that all right?
Absolutely. That sounds great. So we have some questions that we were given online. But before that, I'll open it up to anybody on the call if anyone wants to start us out with any questions that you have for Mayor Gomez.
I have a question.
Sure.
So Mayor Gomez, first of all, thank you for sharing your story about how you kind of found your career and everything. I was wondering if you were to do it again, would there be anything you would do differently, or kind of how you would find exactly what you wanted to do? Would you change anything?
Good question. And no, I wouldn't do anything differently. For me, I think as strange as my path has been a little bit, it all has helped. By working before I went to law school, I knew that I was going to law school for me. I wasn't going to law school from anybody else in the family's perspective. It didn't matter that I'd always said since I was little I was going. I had to do it for myself, and it made it better for my learning, I think, when I went through it. And falling upon it, I'd always wanted to be involved in my community. And if I was going to live somewhere, I needed to be involved. I would, I guess, want to know a little bit more about public service, but I think sometimes you got to learn on the job anyway. So I don't know if I don't think I would change a thing.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you, Miriam. Any other questions from the Zoom? Okay, Grace, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, while being in Florida, who's been like your biggest mentor, someone who you've looked up to during your career?
Another good question. Should have asked for questions given to me before and I'd have answers. No, honestly, my parents always have instilled in me you want something, go out and get it. Don't let anybody tell you no. And if they do, they need to give you a really good reason. I am procedural based. Creative is great. Spontaneous is great, but there are certain things that need to be a little bit on the plan cycle. So I would always think about them and think about what would they do. My father, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but I still hear his voice in my head. And then as I've gone along, I've got my mentors in the law. My senior partner was an amazing man, and I called him the guru of real estate. So I've learned a tremendous amount from him. And there are people in this community, for the public service community, that I know that I can talk to. And knowing that who you can talk to, just finding somebody to talk to is sometimes half the challenge, but knowing that I don't have all the answers and that it's okay not to have all the answers. So ask somebody. I've gone to Mayor Brook when I've had questions about certain things. I've gone to other elected officials. So I find that is your best way to do it, for me at least.
It's a great question. Thank you, Grace. Any more questions from the Zoom room? All right, I'm going to turn to some of the questions that we had online, Mayor, from those who submitted. So one of the first questions that I see is, what is your favorite part of being mayor?
Talking to people, getting to hear what they have to say, even if they're not the happiest about it. Let's be realistic. Not everybody reaching out to you is really excited to talk to you because they might have a complaint, but trying to listen to the residents and the business owners and just see what else could be done to help. So I'd say talking to people.
Another question that we had was, what do you feel is the most important issue that's facing our community?
It's a combination plate. It all intertwines. Having the resources to be able to give the services and have the facilities that are needed. Our communities, Tamarack and Coral Springs, are similar in age in the respects of when we were created. Your community was created with a little bit more of a focus towards family. City of Tamarack was created originally for the original more purpose of retirement. So when people were trying to realize that the city of Tamarack is about 58 years old now, but we go from 0 to about 105, no kidding. She's her 105th birthday is coming up October 31st. We need to have services and things for our average age is dropping from 68 to 48. We have children, we have families, we want to keep everybody here, just like Coral Springs does. Every community wants their growth together, to grow up together. So we're in the process of trying to figure out what to do with a built out city and make sure that we can attract families and keep our older generation and be able to afford to do it.
Oh, that's really great insight, Mayor. Another question is about consensus building and in the role that you play in public service and government. Of course, it's very important to build consensus and to work with others. So the question that was, how is it that you're able to get others to accept your ideas?
You have to listen. You have to talk and you have to listen. So if there's a great idea on the table, depending on who's brought it up, if there's something that you don't like about it, express why positively in the respects of no attacking. Why do you feel that you don't think it's a good idea? What is it that, and then what can we do to make you feel that it is? And the same thing of what makes you feel that this is a great idea, and being able to just come together with the idea. You're never going to get 5-0 all the time on the commission. You would like it. Sometimes you can, but there's always got to be a reason somewhere for why someone's not going to be in support of an item, and being respectful throughout the whole process.
All right. And so I'm going to go back to the Zoom and see if anybody has any questions or comments or even anything they want to share. Maybe even if it's a project that you're working on and the mayor can give her insight or feedback and see how she can support. Miriam, I see you've got your hand. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so Mayor Gomez, I was actually wondering if you could speak more about kind of your experience being mayor during COVID this past year and a half, how it's been, and maybe if you had any ideas of how we could unite cities moving forward.
Excellent. I'll share from a little bit further back, if you don't mind. My mayorship, since I started being mayor, has had challenges in the respects that right after being elected, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I'm very happy with this hair, even though I'm having a bad hair day. I lost it all, lost the eyebrows, the eyelashes, and even the nails and stuff. So being mayor has had its challenges. I'm proud to say that 16 rounds of chemo and 30 rounds of radiation after, I'm doing great. cancer-free. So those challenges, as you learn as an individual, I guess, in some respects, on the personal challenge. Then when you come to COVID and the health concerns, thank you for the chair. You then have my focus is a little bit, it's not inward, it's outward, right? It's what do we need to do as a community to help each other, but also take care of everyone's health. I said this throughout, and COVID's still continuing, but I take care of me, which means I take care of you. We all know our bodies. We have to go to our doctors. We have to listen and sort out the facts. I would say there's a lot out there that I will specifically say that as youth, you have to contend with, that I didn't have to contend with news from all angles. So coming together and figuring out how do we help everybody? Again, it deals with limited resources. It deals with people who are scared, healthy, maybe a little bit panicked if they go out, what will happen to their health. So there was a lot of conversation. I had for a bad time, so to speak, it was a good time to learn to come together. I know that Mayor Brook, and there's 31 cities in Broward. We had our weekly meetings when things were getting worse. We've gone down to actually every 2 weeks, where we communicate and we say, what's going on in our city? What are you doing in your city that'll help my city? Or keeping in mind, if my city is more stringent and your city is more lax, what's going to happen? My people will go into your city and will it cause issues? So we had to work together to be able to do this. We had food drives, and it wasn't food drives just for Tamarack. Our food drives, we had 3 different ones. We pulled in from all areas. You had food drives. We basically worked together. And not only did the city work together, I'm pretty sure were active. I don't see anybody on this panel who kind of just said, I'm not getting involved and I'm not helping out. I'm pretty sure if I asked you the question, what did you guys do during the majority of the pandemic to help this, you'll have some good answers for me. But that's what we did. We had to step outside of the box, so to speak, and say, what do we do to help? How do we get out there to the people who can't get out? So there was a lot that went on, and I am a lot of messaging, a lot of emails and phone calls, and those people who aren't on internet. I called a lot of residents, sent letters, did certain things that we needed to do to be able to touch all ages and stuff. So I do look forward to a time when we're not wearing a mask again and we're not sitting on a Zoom screen and we can feel comfortable to travel to, whether you have a conference or if we're doing it here in Broward. I think that time will come. We just have to continue being mindful.
And Mayor, I'm sure the residents of Tamarack, and I know our community is grateful for your leadership during a time when we were looking for direction and leadership, and you and Mayor Brook and others have provided that. So it's really great to hear from those experiences as well. And great question, Miriam.
Thank you.
Isabel, go right ahead.
Being mayor, I'm sure you must be very busy. So how do you organize, plan, and prioritize your work?
I use colored pens, honestly. If you look at I use it on my BlackBerry. They make fun of me, but I love my BlackBerry. But I also have a book, and I write everything down, and I know what's coded for what. And just staying on top of things. My family has been very supportive. They knew that this was something that I really wanted to do, and if I was going to do it, I'm going to be all in. And in order to do it right, be involved and out in the community. So that has helped me stay organized. As I said, being busy is best for me sometimes, because if I have too much time in my hand, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I like to keep busy.
It's a great question. Thank you. A question that came up in the registration was, how did you discover your career path and that you wanted to be a public servant?
I fell into it. Literally, when I was complaining I was at my own community association meeting, and I didn't like the rules that my association had. It said that I couldn't have a fence in my backyard and when I asked the person why, they told me, well, because I live in a golf course canal, what if my newspaper went along the fence. It would be really ugly for the golfers to see, to which my response was more or less, so we should let the fish in the canal eat the paper. I mean, it didn't make sense to me. So, and it was one of those, well, that's the way it's always been. And so that's when I was told to go see somebody at my association meeting, and she told me about Tamarack University. So it was an opportunity that came around. My senior partner had passed away. The firm was basically mine now. And so I said, realistically, I was 38 at the time, you could do the math. I worked full time, and everybody on the commission were retired. Like, they're not going to pick me for this appointment process, but sure enough, they did. And I think that encouraged me to be able to know that I am here to show that you can work and do this, still keep your job going, keep your family going, and work for a city and do it. And not, you don't have to be retired to do this, more or less. So, I hope I answered the question.
Absolutely. That's a great answer and a great story. Absolutely. Grace, I see your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering how you've been able to stay motivated. Obviously, you said you've had some challenges along the way, but even during COVID, how have you just been able to like keep up with all your work and be motivated to do it all?
It goes back to the people. I have had the pleasure of being out in the community a lot and talking to everybody, and nobody's 100% happy, right? That would just, so not everybody I talk to is pleased, but they are appreciative and they like what they see in the city and that we're going forward. And so it gives me energy, and our employees are absolutely wonderful. And they give me energy when I go out to events and see they're smiling and they're happy being there. It makes me want to continue to do this and see what we can do to just continue improving.
It's a great question, Grace. Another question that comes up is, as mayor, there are a lot of decisions that you have to make for the people that you represent. So, the top of your head, what is the most difficult decision that you've had to make? Or if it's a particular experience that comes to mind, if there's anything along those lines.
Oh, actually, a very timely item before us right now is the redevelopment of a community that has a golf course on it, and whether or not the redevelopment should go through. It is difficult in so many ways. One, I happen to live there. And this is where I've been, and I am very much familiar with it and what needs to be done for the greater good of the community and through the in the city. So that is a very difficult question that is before us, scheduled to come before us soon for a vote. As it is partially quasi-judicial, I have no answer, but actually, quite honestly, my answer would be everybody has been. I've got information of I've got a half-baked cake in front of me. I don't have enough information to say if I like it or don't like it. I can know how I feel about this and that I keep in, because again, right now, this isn't about what I want, it's what's going to be the best interest for the community and the city at large. So that's going to be a tough one.
Well, that's very interesting, and we'll definitely keep an eye out to see the developments and what happens. Another question that I think is particularly prevalent to this group, what are some opportunities that you see for our youth to get involved in public service, in government, or just to find their passion?
For us, I would do find your passion. And you find your passion by getting involved. And if you get involved and it's public service, then that's fine. But you have to find your passion through experience. I interned a lot. I got involved in a lot of things. And don't be afraid to ask. If you know that you want to get involved in the law, for example, and you want to be in corporate banking, then go to the bank. Ask if you can intern there. Get school credit. There's a few things here that are different than when they went up north, but ask. It doesn't hurt. Like, that's how I wound up down here. My graduate school professor made us talk to somebody about a project, and I'm thinking, he also wanted us to work 40 hours a week. I'm thinking, I'm working 40 hours a week. I'm trying to write my thesis and you want me to do what? And so I met this gentleman who was a marketing agent for an athlete, and he was running this athlete's foundation. And so on the third time I'm speaking to him, he wants to come down here. I'm saying, I'll run your office in New York. I brought it up to him. He thought it was a great idea. It wasn't until the day before he was ready to move down. He goes, guess what? You're moving down to Florida. I'm not paying for it, but I'm moving down to Florida. You can have a job if you come down. Again, you just kind of go with it. And, but you have to ask and you figure out what you like. And so I started on a career path of, I thought I was doing law. Then I went to special events and fundraising and public communication and marketing. And then I'm back in the law. So you're not stuck. Today's day and age, we're not like, well, my parents, you took a job, that was it. Now you have the opportunity to try it out. You really don't like it. If you've tried it out, find something else. But being responsible, you don't want to just do something for a minute and then bounce to another thing for another minute. And I would take it that nobody on this call has that personality, that you all have a work ethic of learning and then experiencing it. But I think if you don't like it, you've tried, you've given it your all, and then you go to the next one and you can find what your passion will be. Experience is usually what it is.
That's a really great advice to help build and grow through experiences and everything that comes your way. I see Miriam, you have your question, and then Isabel right after that.
Yes, so I had a question, Mayor Gomez. So I was wondering if you have ever felt like burnt out or unmotivated to keep going, like public service wise, and if that is the case, how did you keep pushing forward?
The answer is yes. There are times when, look, you're all very intelligent. You all read various things. There's a lot of crud out there. And then so you kind of go, why am I going to do this? Am I going to be able to accomplish what I think is going to help for the greater good for the city and move things along? Am I being heard today? And there are some days where you just have a day and you go, I'm really not sure about this. Quite honestly, I go home to my honey. He's great. I've got 4 dogs and 2 cats. Sit on the couch, regroup with some family love and time, call it a night, get up the next morning, and it's a beautiful day. And you put it away, because everybody you'll have a bad day. But sometimes you can't let the noise of naysayers and people saying things can't be done. You know what? Things can be done. Just got to figure out a way to do it and surround yourself with other positive people who will help you along the way to make sure you can get it done.
A great question. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Mayor. Isabel, I know you had a question as well.
What is the most important concept or principle that you've learned in your experience being mayor?
Principle or concept to learn. Oh, sorry, we have automatic lights here. Oh, lovely. There we go. I'm not really sure if I'm going to answer this right, so you'll steer me back if I'm not where. I think first and foremost from internally, know that the decisions you are making with the best information you have at hand. You have questions about it, research it. Integrity. I need to be able to know that the decisions I'm making are the best. And I've said this a few times through this, but for the greater good. Just like in the law, for things that are made decisions for the best interest of the children or for the best interest of the family, depending, I'm dealing with family law on that part. But I want to know that when I put my head on the pillow, I've done the best I can. I want to know that I've put it all in. So for me, that all comes down to integrity. What my father always used to say, your name is your reputation, and your reputation are the only things you have. And I'm in control of it, as you know. So that's what I would say from learning internally. If there's a concept you're talking about from externally, just if you would just help me clarify that, please.
No, you answered my question. Yeah, that's what
Great. Thank you, Isabel. Mayor, I know you had mentioned in the beginning that you had some questions for the group. Is there anything that you'd like to hear from, that you'd like to, pose a question or anything along those lines?
I know your group basically wants to, it's being innovative and problem solving, and maybe another time we could do this. I was curious as to how you would handle, I wasn't going to use the golf course example. I was going to put it to the example of building a school in an older community, and ask you, how would you approach that outreach and problem solving and dealing with a community that is older but getting younger? So that was one of the things I was going to throw out, but I don't know if we have enough time, because I do apologize. I have to head off in about 8 minutes. The other things that I had questions about, I wanted to know, what do you think it takes to be a public official? When you say instilling values of leadership, innovation, and problem solving, I want to know what you find those values to be, and where do you think that they come from?
Oh, those are really brilliant questions and great discussion starters for us. Does anyone want to briefly take a crack at any of those questions or share any insights?
I've just scared everybody. I do apologize.
Well, Mayor, we'll definitely keep those questions in mind and definitely discuss them and see what everyone thinks, because I think I really like the idea of seeing what everyone on the call and in our group thinks about those questions, and any way that they can guide the process, or just to hear what everybody has to say. I know that you have another commitment coming up, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us and to share your time and experiences. I want to give you an opportunity for any closing remarks and anything that you want to share before we end off, and before you have to go. And again, we just are so appreciative of your time and you being here today.
I appreciate very much. I would like, if you'd like, you can feel free to send me your answers to your questions. I put my contact information in your chat. You're not obligated. I was curious as to how many of you are in Coral Springs, and how many, or are you from other places? Just to get to know about people I'm talking with. So if you want to share that.
So I'm in Parkland, can tell you that. Anybody in Coral Springs, if you want to raise your hand. Okay, we have Isabel. I know Grace is in San Diego.
Yeah, okay.
Miriam, yourself,
I'm in Parkland.
Parkland.
Mhm.
Jacob, you're in, if I'm not mistaken, Davie?
I live in Weston.
Weston.
I'm not there right now. I'm not home right now.
All right, great. Julianne, if I'm not mistaken, Parkland as well?
Yeah, Parkland.
Great. And then Jack?
Yeah, he says in the chat that he's from San Diego.
Oh, great.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. I'll just say, you guys can do whatever you want. I'm available, happy to talk with you on a one-to-one. You want to, without a Zoom if you want. I'm right down the block from you guys in Coral Springs, not too far wherever you are. San Diego, I'd love to take a trip another time with world. Let's loosen up a bit. But I do appreciate the opportunity, and I do think that it's great that you're involved and that you are thinking about what needs to be done for the future, because I'm sure you've heard some older cranky people going, oh my God, the youth of today, what are we going to do? You know what the youth is today? We're not going to have to worry. So thank you for your involvement. Thank you for letting me be with you. It's been my pleasure. And I'm sorry I missed the mayor, but I'll find him and talk with him another time. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gomez. We're so appreciative of your time, and this was truly wonderful. And thank you for also providing your contact information and opening your door to anybody who would like to take advantage of that opportunity.
Well, I would appreciate hearing from you if you wish. I thank you very much. You have a good night.
Thank you. You too, Mayor.
Thanks.
All right. So that was Mayor Gomez, really phenomenal leader in Tamarack. And our team always loves connecting with great leaders and public service and business and all different kinds of fields. One of the things that we like to do at this point in the juncture is go around and just share any thoughts or questions that you might have. I think it'd be appropriate any reflections that you have from the mayor's presentation and from her experiences and what she's been able to do in her journey and her career. So I'll go across as I see it on the Zoom screen. And you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to do so. So Miriam, I see you first, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, of course. So I think kind of my favorite part of the Q&A is when she was talking about a lot of the challenges she experienced, especially, right after she got elected, she talked about how she had breast cancer, and it was really inspiring how she kept going and she kept pushing and she continued with the public service. And for me personally, a lot of times I experience challenges and I just get burnt out, or I will stop because I give up. And it motivated me to realize that you have to think about the big picture and your goals and what you want to do with your life and what you want to achieve, and you have to overcome some challenges a lot of the times.
Really well said. And absolutely, I love that she brought in that piece about things and adversities that she's gone through, especially that particular question that you asked, Miriam, about how it's like to be a mayor during COVID-19, really reflects leading through change and adversity. Isabel, I see you next. You want to share anything?
Yeah, I also thought her story was very inspiring, and it inspires me to get more involved in the community and help others like she has.
It's really great. Thank you, Isabel. Grace, what about you?
I actually thought it was really interesting the way she was from New York and she was only planning on spending like a little bit of time in Florida, and now she's lived here for a majority of her life. I just thought it was interesting. You don't really know where your life or your career is going to take you, and now she's a mayor of a town in Florida. So I just thought that was really interesting how she ended up here.
It's so true. That's a really great point. Never know where journey is going to take you. Julianne, what about you?
I think it's interesting how she was just talking about how she's motivated by the people. Like in all of her answers, she kind of tied that in, how like the people and their thoughts about her and the community kept her going.
That's true. That's one thing I've observed about a lot of different leaders, especially in local government, who really do care, and they always tie it back to the people, which is really cool. So that's a good observation. Jacob, what about you, my friend?
Yeah, I thought it was very informative, and the story was actually pretty inspiring because it's kind of like a reminder to follow your dreams, follow your goals. As she was saying how she decided to go to law school, and it shows how you can always end up no matter like what path you take. As she said, she didn't go straight to law school right after undergrad. She first worked a bit, so you can just follow your own path and still end up where you want.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point. So we can, in this call, since we heard from Mayor Gomez, we went over some reflections, we can definitely end a little bit early today. Does anybody have any questions about the Youth Innovation Table, about anything at all, or anything else that you want to share before we go? One thing, and Jacob, since you're here, we are working for the next meeting to have a panel, which will be for some of the different colleges and universities in Florida, and an opportunity for students and youth to learn about those different opportunities in education. So if you know anybody who may be a good speaker from one of those schools, from one of the schools in Florida or anywhere else for that matter, then you can definitely get in touch and let us know, so maybe we can have them on to share their experiences. And then Grace, after that, will help us put together one in California, right? So that'll be good. And we'll release all those speakers and information soon. So we finalize that. Any other updates or anything you want to share from anybody? School's going, anything at all? All right, great. All right, everybody, we'll end off a little bit early. If you have any questions, you can reach out. You'll have my contact, and we'll have our next meeting. Let me check real quick. If anybody has it in front of him, whatever would be 2 Mondays from now. Looks like, I think that's October 4th.
Yeah, October
Yeah.
4th.
Okay, great. So October 4th, we'll have that panel. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for joining on the call. And let's get each of us 5 to 10 new people to join on. So there's 6 of us here. So if each of us can get just 5 friends, we'll make it 30. So let's aim for that at the minimum. All right.
Sounds
Take
good.
care and see you soon. Thanks, everybody.